Good morning, boys and girls. We are on our second day of reading our story Special Effects, and it is our third day this week of comprehension. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into reading the rest of our story. We left off on step 8, fixing in place. Model makers use a special glue to make sure the sections will not come apart. The glue is carefully dried by hand. Technicians use the same kind of blow dryer people use on their hair. That way, they can aim the hot wind just right so it will not disturb any delicate details on the landscape surface. You can see right here by this picture, appropriate large potted plants are used for the foreground. If you remember this little reptile in our very first diagram that we saw it in, it was just made out of cardboard and it was so small. But look how realistic and large it is here. And you can actually see this man using a blow dryer, just like it talked about in step 8. Computer generated imagery. Many future movies will be created or enhanced on screen using computer generated imagery or CGI. This 3D animated dragon has been created as a wireframe image before being fleshed out, enhanced, and lit carefully all on a computer. So, this large dragon in the middle was actually made with CGI and it was completely made on a computer, which is really cool. A lot of movies today with large animals and dragons or different creatures are made using CGI. And a lot of the new animated movies like Lion King and things like that are also made with CGI. So you've actually probably seen some movies where some very talented people made the creatures or the animals in that movie with CGI. Reptile modeling. This is kind of an aside all about how they made this little reptile that we were just talking about. Early reptiles were needed to inhabit the prehistoric scene, so miniature models were prepared. After it was agreed which reptiles to model, including Moscophus, left, each one was sculpted carefully in non drying clay, which is easy to shape. The model is attached to metal leg stands, and the smallest details are added at this stage, including horned backbones, razor sharp claws, and scaled reptile skin. You can look, he's carving every little detail into the clay to make it look very realistic. The model maker sprays the model with plastic sealer to make it possible to release the fiberglass of the mold from the clay later on. A dividing wall of clay is then placed around the model, which is pictured on the right, so that when the mold is made, it can be split into two halves. The mold is filled with foam latex, and the result is the white-faced reptile. The model makers can now paint its skin with different textures of green and yellow. The creature is hollow the middle so that the SFX technicians can get their arms up and inside to operate it without the viewer seeing. You remember SFX means special effects. This is a foam latex model of the Lystrosaur. The final image of one reptile perched on a fallen log in the miniature landscape looks incredibly realistic. The creature has also been given small eyes, pointed claws, and fanged teeth. And this is that picture of that reptile right here. And it says that water is actually what makes this little reptile that's made out of clay glisten on film. Alrighty, let's go to the next page. Tricks of the trade. The model makers go to great lengths to make a miniature look as realistic as possible. Here, they are working on a slight depression in the surface that was carved out for a lake. It is filled with water to a depth of just 1.5 inches. The model makers are layering the shallow water with fabric to make it look more like a deep lake. That looks like a deep lake to me, and can you believe that it is only 1.5 inches? That's just a tiny bit bigger than the very tip of your pinky. This picture right here is labeled. Model makers refer to television monitor for camera's eye view. So right here, they are looking at the television so they can see what the camera sees. Large potted trees are used for foreground section. So they have all the large potted trees. This is a real log that is used in the foreground for the landscape. And their miniature trees are planted in the section behind muslin-coated pond. So the little mini trees are planted behind the pond. You can kind of see in this top picture up here. Toy soldiers. Director Steven Spielberg used a miniature model to plan shots for the filmed Raiders of the Lost Ark. Directors often use miniature models to plan the way a scene should look, including actors' movements, the scenery, and any special lighting on camera angles. So it also shows all of the little captions and it points to where it's talking about. So right here it says Spielberg decides where to position the camera for the desert shot. Sand dunes are constructed from polystyrene and beach sand, and miniature models of tents, tanks, and other vehicles are used. Finally ready. It has taken most of the day to reassemble the entire miniature landscape. Now the scene is ready for filming. During filming, SFX team members beneath the platform can reach up and move the reptile models around from below. Notice how the trees in the background section of the landscape are much smaller than the trees in the foreground section. This makes the scene seem to roll back away rapidly into the distance. The large painted backdrop and studio lighting add to the effect of a vast prehistoric landscape roamed by the early reptiles. So, what that is talking about is that these trees that are close to us seem really big, so it seems like they're very close. And they put all these miniature trees in the background, so it seems like they are really far away. So even though we know that this miniature model is only 24 feet by 24 feet, it looks much larger. So, we read our story special effects today. We also looked at a bunch of different graphics and captions. And the big point when you have small little captions with a graphic is that you have to make sure you capture the main idea of what you want to tell about that graphic. Because as you can see on this page, there's a lot more space that is filled with pictures than there are filled with text. So it's really important that the author knows exactly what they want you to learn from their little blurb of information because they fill most of the page with pictures. So it has to be short and to the point when they add a caption to their picture. So your job for your assignment today is actually going to be to look at this picture right here, and I'll post it on your assignment, and you're going to come up with another caption for this picture. How would you caption this picture? Based on what we read about this picture, that the director Steven Spielberg used a miniature model to plan shots for the film Raiders of the Lost Ark. Directors often use miniature models to plan the way a scene should look, including actors, movements, the scenery, and any special lighting or camera angles. And then it gave us little information about specific areas in the scene. I want you to create your own caption for this picture. Okay. And it'll be just like the discussion board that you did yesterday, right below this question. It'll have this picture. It'll tell you to create a caption, and all you have to do is type it in the box and post it. If you have any questions, please let me know. I hope that you have an amazing day, and I will see you back here tomorrow.